Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Secrets of the Real Secret Service. Exposed now, Secrets of the Real Secret Service, with Duane, the great writer, and Dean Val Vitols, who were with the ISSS, International Secret Service Supervision, and they will be finally telling their stories after over 50 years of keeping quiet in this ongoing new series, as they are both here to help save this planet Earth. And today, on this episode, we will begin by speaking in regards to the current pandemic that is sweeping the globe. And so, I will then pass it over to Duane and Val.
Yes, hello, Kevin. Yes, this is a lot of fun for us to do this. Val and I are very focused, and we keep up on everything as best we can with what's going on in the world. But the most fun and most important in our big adventure, too, is what's really taking place and why this is all happening. And this started a long time ago, even prior to the North America here being, taken over by the Europeans, etc., and the bankers, and it goes back to the, the original invaders, the human farmers, which is the reptilians and other aliens on this planet. And it gets into a lot of things, and the movies, it's all being shown in the movies if people pay attention more so than just entertainment. So more than 50, 60 years ago, and up to 100 years ago or so, this depopulation coronavirus pandemic had been decided because the ruling class, the monarchy, the cabal, WorldKontrollers, they saw what was coming. And again, this is a big game to them. This is like a big Monopoly game. This is really all it is. And what has taken place and all the people suffering and what they're going through, this is their entertainment. Just like you see in the movies. Most of the movies are, explosions, killings, mysteries, espionage, spying, revenge, treachery, tyranny, all these things, good versus evil. They like to keep this game going because, and the monetary system especially, keeping people chasing money. And then you have the movie stars, the politicians, celebrities, etc., and they create these things, the billionaires, they like all this because it gets people to chase into future lifetimes of moral consciousness and control. But what the WorldKontrollers do see and don't see is the bigger picture, and that is by what they're doing, they're actually promoting the implosion of this creation bubble we're in, and we've all been in many, and this is the one we're in right now. So we go through these creation bubbles, and we'll use the idea of time, which the time makers invented a long time ago to get people balled and chained to the idea that time and space and the so-called universe, which is really a realm, is the only reality there is. But in creation, everything is multi-dimensional. So right now, on this planet Earth, what people are facing is this marketing ploy of this pandemic. And yes, they do create diseases. Actually, they patent them because they're so proud of themselves. So these are all patents if they're not in the US or other places around the world, etc. They like to show what they're doing. They are big show-offs. And so again, this is their entertainment. So we're in a big Monopoly game board here, and they always want to be the winners, and they like to see other people suffer. And this is where they do religions and sacrifices and cults and all these things. They are the actual cults, but they point the finger at everybody else. It's always somebody out there or somewhere else. And so, people have a lot of misinformation. And as Duane, the great writer, and with Ava and Rebazar and the Real Universal Guides, I've promoted a lot of Facebook groups, and just like Kevin here, He has done a whole lot, prolificating this all over the world, letting people know that they can wake up. Yes, we still have to deal with all this nonsense, but you can wake up and become more aware and better deal with it and eventually surpass it altogether and not be sucked in and stuck to the darkness of uncreativity in this imploding creation bubble. It's very, very real that people think is life. And it's not, it's just a place in life to create. It's very minuscule compared to all life in the real universes, which are endless freeness. And here in creation, we create. We have to create. It is necessary for us to create so that we can get objective views of ourselves to eventually recognize the real awareness. So Val and I, long time ago, in a place far, far away, which is actually right here now, we became involved in what is known as the ISSS, International Secret Service SuperVision, which actually is also intergalactic and many, many other things, multidimensional. And so this entails a lot. Val has his own experiences, which he will share. I have mine. And I was first into this at about age 19. And there's more to this story. And as we go along here, we'll go back and forth. And this involves the aliens, the Queen of Orion, the Phantom Zones, anything that you can imagine, and more so than even the science fiction movies that you've seen. It's very, very real. And so the virus, the coronavirus 19, or whatever they call it, the COVID-19, all these little magical words that they create and all this nonsense. And every agent of the government and most corporations, and especially the pharmaceuticals, FDA, CDC, and all these things, they were all set up to control people, to harass them, to make them suffer and watch them suffer. This is their entertainment, because the money makers, they can create as much money as they want. It's all computerized today. So, hey, they can buy everybody off because people have agreed to chase money. And, you know, money's fine. It's fine. It's a workable idea that can be very beneficial. But for the most part and overall, it's used to control people and keep them unconscious with their 5 bodies here, and mainly the subconscious, and tap-lined in mainly their astral body, which most cancers and diseases come from, and then down into the physical. So now we have this masquerade, masks, and vaccines, etc. And many, many people are bravely stepping up. Val and I are constantly watching different videos and movies, etc. I enjoy the movies too. I like the adventures. Watch a lot of Netflix because the episodes are telling you exactly how it is. They're making all this stuff up. They own the movie industry. They own the movie stars, those people that parade out there without their masks, but they're telling you to wear the masks and get the shots, etc. Again, the agenda is depopulation. That's it, because they don't care, because they know. See, this is what most people don't know. Yeah, they know the pandemic can be fake, or the vaccines are deadly, but they don't know the bigger picture, and that is that they will be coming back in future lifetimes again and again, and the world controllers will have fun playing with them until the moment comes, and it looks like it's going to come any day or in this lifetime here, to where everything becomes darkened and darker, to where it all self-implodes, just like the black holes. The black holes are a very good indication that are in the galaxies of what is taking place. What is taking place as they implode. In other words, this is creation imploding onto itself because of the promoted and agreed upon deception. So even good people, when they have the misinformation that's circulating through creation, they are still agreeing with the demise, and they do not know this. So that's why we're here, to let people know that they have a better chance and a better way. But it's a real recognition altogether, more so than just creating more ideas that can seem to offset this. It's all about a person's real awareness, singing the new you, and learning to identify the real guides and recognizing the real universes. This is a must. So it's more than a mind frame idea, the spiritual past, religions, etc. We've all been through those. I've intensely been through those, learned from those. Those are references of what not to do. And Val and I we're also associated with things like Eckankar and what Paul created. And Paul was the real guide at the time. But all that has gone by the wayside and is completely 100% taken over by reptilians and tap lining. And these people, again, are constantly being misformed. All these religious groups, from the Vatican to the Dalai Lama and whatever masters and gurus, etc. This is not a put down. What it is that they're mainly physical, astral, and very limited in the multi dimensions of even creation. But basically, none of them know about the real universes and the real guides and the potential. And until they do, their created little heavens and la la land places will not do them any good, because they will be imploding also. So again, my message is that yes, this is all a setup. It's all planned. People have the choice, etc. So we are using various means here. And one of them in the United States is the sheriffs with Sheriff Mack in the Constitution. Again, this is a very limited reference, but again, like a bicycle or a car, yeah, it's you can get around in it, but with your real awareness, you can go everywhere. But at the same time, we utilize these things, and we will be discussing more and more of this. And so back to you, Kevin, if you have a question, or if Val wants to speak, go ahead.
Some background information to make this bigger viewpoint is these pandemics are nothing new. There were the plagues in the 1200s. There was the 1918 Spanish flu. All these things are planned and by the elites or the controllers, and to depopulate. They figure there's been enough people, so they need to cull the population, and this is one of the means by which they do it. So I'll go back to my connection with Elliott Roosevelt, the son of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. We met him my parents met him in the 40s, early 40s. There was the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact in 1939 that carved up Europe. The United States and Russia carved it up, and Russia got the countries of Latvia and Lithuania and Estonia, which my parents are from Latvia. So they were actually allies in World War II, the Russians and the United States. So Elliott made a trip to Europe. First he went over to the Netherlands because the Roosevelts are related to the Queen of Wilhelmina at that time, Dutch, to warn her and to provide safety for her because of what was coming in World War II. This is the beginning of World War II. So he went over there to give her a opportunity to come to the States and get out of danger. So these wars are population culling events too, like World War II, to get rid of people, just like the plague. So he did that. He went over to Riga to meet with Russia, because he was involved in the airline industry, to meet with the Russians to establish an air route from the United States to Russia. Well, that's where I met my parents. My parents were just starting to, they got wind, of course, of what was going on in Europe at the time too, just like, but they were aware of what was going on. Here, the United States and the public, you could say they're dumbed down to what's really going on, but many people in Europe saw what was coming. So that was the start of what was called the Forest Brothers, which was an underground movement of resistance fighters. And that's where my connection with Elliot and the OSS and the Secret Service came about through my parents. And so they had a meeting there, Elliot and my parents and other resistance, small group of resistance organization, which is very disorganized, by the way, and it never got any leadership or really never took off. They did do damage in World War II, but they never really did much in terms of making an impact. And Elliot warned them too about that because it was going to be bigger than what they thought. Just go on to, we kept in touch throughout the years with correspondence with Elliot, my parents, and I. And the last thing that we got from him was around 1981, and he told us of a book by Jacques Attali, who was part of the Bilderberg group. And this Attali, Mr. Attali, wrote a book about a pandemic that would, a huge pandemic or a financial crisis that would make an impact on the world, and there would be a cure, and people would flock to walk into their own slaughter, basically, from the cure. And this is in 1981. And again, that was the last time we heard from Elliot. And as you may know, these families come from basically the monarchies, the Roosevelts, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. They have privy to what's going on, so that's how he knew some of this information, and he would inform us now and then. So they are basically part of this group. Some of them are called the nihilists. You know, they see themselves as like the only way to get out of the matrix is to destroy the matrix. So they have this agenda to destroy and depopulate, especially at this time. So I'll just leave it at that and take it over to you, Kevin.
Yeah, on the previous show, Val, you were speaking of how your parents had a number of dreams, and including in them, they had interaction with Paul, one of the real universal guides at the time, and these dreams are what prompted you into getting involved in the new presentation. And I'm curious if your parents shared any dreams back then that you remember that pertain to the situations as they stand now in regards to this pandemic.
They were more or less like prompts, little nudges and little clips, rather than something you might have, long dreams. But they were kind of like me, where they get impressions and prompts, and a lot of times I didn't understand them, but they would basically be something that, like a hint to do something at a certain time. And I can go back and look at some of that and tell you about it later, but right now I don't have anything offhand. But that's where I did get into paying attention to what was going on and to be multidimensional, that idea where there's more than the surface world. So they would share with me, again, it was more of a small clip of things that would prompt them to do something.
Yeah, you spoke also, Val, on the last episode when you were involved in your surveillance work with the secret services, that the individuals you were involved with, you had much by way of discussion regarding information that the public wasn't aware of, specifically pertaining to alternative health methods that involved oxygen. And you mentioned that the source of this information was alien. Could you perhaps elaborate a bit on that?
Well, again, oxygen is just the basis of our existence here. So it was just a matter of just hyperbaric chambers and things that we were not really, besides that sort of thing that we didn't have access to, but we were told about. And so there wasn't a lot I could say about that, but it was just kind of a general format that we were told that there is things out there, technologies out there. And personally, I haven't had that much experience with or access to it, you could say, at that time, that we were just told about it, basically. But there's a lot of people out there that are talking about it and researching it, but personally I don't have access to it.
Okay, and I was going to go back to Duane now, in regards to the simulator implosion, which will be the inevitable consequence of the agreement through the consciousness to restriction that affects ultimately as the simulator collapsing. But I think people listening to this video will then be interested to know what happens next. So perhaps if you could just give a brief explanation of what happens to all the individuals who are trapped in the simulator implosion and what fate awaits them.
Well, this is a Netflix movie, isn't it, Kevin? And yes, and each person must realize that they create their own personal consciousness bubble with them, and then there's an overall consciousness with the world, and there's many, it's like consciousness is multidimensional also, because it helps create the multi-dimensions, just like cyberspace. Those are their own dimensions, etc. And they deal basically with the technology, just going back to like when Disney, one of the first Disney movies along this line was Tron, starring Jeff Bridges, and I think that was in the 70s, if I remember right. And I suggest people see these movies. And then they made a Tron 2, and actually in the first Tron, just like the Matrix movies, he was trapped there. And the second one, someone goes back there or whatever. I saw the second one, but I don't remember a lot of it. But again, you have that situation. And, again, people, instead of just, we all accept ideas like books on a shelf. We have ideas, we carry these ideas with us. But seeing these ideas as creation and not so much thinking them as a reality or an absolute, like the God idea that's been marketed to people, which comes from the Anunnaki or the original reptilian aliens. They were the gods. That's the Ra God. And Stargate, as one example, is a very good example of that. And also the one Al Pacino was in, The Devil's Advocate. There's many movies that display this, of what's really taking place here. But again, people think it's movies, but it's not so much fate. Okay, fate and destiny is something that each person decides, and this is cause and effect in creation only. The true reality all life is an isness. It already is. So it's like we're standing on the earth, and you see the earth, and you see everything that's been created on the earth, and each individual has their ideas about themselves and what they want, what they've created or what they will create, or relationships or whatever. They have these ideas, beliefs, likes and dislikes, wants and, fears and anxieties and agendas, etc. These are ideas. And then as you look into the sun and the sky as an example, just as a reference reflective example, that's like the real universes, but you have to recognize it. But it's all with us, always. It's an isness, because all life is awareness. So, as long as there is agreement to the misunderstood, misinformed deception that has taken place, no matter how good it looks, because you see, people have been indoctrinated to be literal, one-dimensional, literal. So they're thinking along the lines, well, this is life and this is how it is. And when I'm told something, I have the right to decide and the free will to decide, oh, if it's real, if it's not real, if I believe it or if I don't believe it. You see, in the literal sense. So, you know, the air that we breathe, the oxygen, the air, whatever makes it up, what we breathe, you cannot see it with the physical eye, unless there's dust in it or something like that, but you're not seeing the air, you're seeing the dust. Okay, you cannot see that. And so this isness is this same reality too. And so there's many factors to this, and the question that you asked Val there with the oxygen and what have you, well, you know, we go back just, you know, when the natural environment was more natural, just say in the United States here on this continent with the indigenous Indians that lived here and did not destroy the natural environment. So today we need all these things like hyperbaric chambers and oxygen and remedies, vitamin pills and all this stuff. Did the Indians do any of this? They didn't do any of this. These indigenous people, they did none of this. They utilized the natural environment because the environment, as it naturally became so, was not disrupted. Today it's disrupted, and we have marketing ploy that says, hey, we can do better. We'll make GMO food. We'll make all this plastic stuff. We'll put chemtrails in the air, and we'll get people to think and believe that, oh, it's just vapor from the planes. It's not really us poisoning them, because this is a lot of fun to watch them suffer and die. So when people look up in the sky, again, the literalization, the one-dimensional literalization, is like, oh, I don't believe that that's poison. Why would the government do that? Well, because you've been misinformed, and what the government tells you is marketing ploy, and you haven't investigated the fact and looked to other dimensions, especially your dreams and the real side, for real guidance to see what's actually going on here. And so just like the experiences you have, and I do Skypes too, we do Skypes all over the world, and we listen to the real side experiences and the people that are having them, and they are being shown. One of the examples is a lady recently shared one of her experiences where she had worked previously at a company, and then all of a sudden in the experience she was there in the building or whatever, and all of a sudden and starting off in the experience, she wore a uniform at the job. Well, starting off in the experience, she put that uniform in the closet. She took it off, put it in the closet, and then went into the experience in the place, the building, etc., that she had worked previously, and began talking to people there, the receptionist, etc., who was kind of giving her a bad time and saying things. And at the same time, all of a sudden, she could hear things, and there were things behind her, and there was a fellow that came behind her and wrapped his arm around her and tried to grab her and whatever. And so she told of this experience and many things going on, like big screens in back of her that showed different military action or whatever, even an astronaut standing there. And so this was going on behind her and whatever. And as she was aware, she could hear these things, and she knew what was happening because now she had a bigger view and more awareness. Well, the real guides had shown her what was going on behind her back while she was working with this company. And see, all of a sudden, she had been informed from all the misinformation that she got off the surface world, thinking that, oh, I have a good job here, I'm being paid, everything is really cool, you know, they're doing business here and there and whatever, but not really seeing what's taking place. And this is what people are not seeing with what's really taking place. And this is all in their consciousness, because mainly people are stuck with their one-dimensional awareness of things here, and it's become their reality It's become their absolute, to where their gods are out there in outer space somewhere, so they look to the sky and pray to their gods. Well, this is all a little bit silly. Did the birds do this? No, they don't. Do the animals in nature or anything? Do they worship and pray or believe in something? Look at the sun shining. Is there belief? Is there anything there along those lines? And so again, there is a real recognition that is possible, but as people keep agreeing unconsciously, and this is where the reptilians have everybody, just like that little clip in the Matrix where Neo is in the capsule there, and all of a sudden it opens and he sits up and he's got all these tap lines in his back, and then are being removed because he took the pill to wake up. He decided to wake up, and yeah, it's not easy waking up to really wake up. It's more than just reading old ancient wisdom and feeling emotionally good and, oh, I believe and I love everything. Well, that's fine. That's an aspect, but there's a lot more. And so again, seeing the reality, starting off seeing the reality that life is with all of us, and to learn to really clear the consciousness and see what's going on, and to get to the real awareness. Well, the sun shining is a very good example, and to recognize what it's providing more so than just heat and making the grass grow. So that's a step there as a reflection, because creation is a reflection of reality, and a very, very pale one at that, because it just gets a lot better. So the real freedom that people are looking for cannot be found in creation, no matter what is decided, no matter what property you own, or how well you're fed, or what your relationships are. Those are all personal items that each person chooses. Boy meets girl here. We have children. We do all this because we've come here to experience. I have too, and I was prepared for lifetimes to come into this and present this, because it's a huge challenge, more so than most people realize, and most people take it for granted. And most people are actually very ungrateful what's being presented here. Again, you have to prove yourself, and life sees all, okay? To be real as the sun shining, to step up and be that reality. So again, there is a wake-up taking place, and the fate and destiny of people is according to what they decide for themselves, and at the same time dealing with the outside world. But it's really our awareness. And so the idea is that if we each became like the shining sun, etc., well, there would be none of this, would there? Because it's all based upon agreement. Just like the money system. The money has no value. There's no value in anything except agreement. Hey, the Indians had gold on their land. They didn't care about gold. Who is it that, placed a value on that, a so-called made-up creative value? The bankers that wanted to control others, who are simply the pawns of the demon reptilian rats that human farm this planet. Also, been to other planets, seen their UFO, been to the undergrounds. They have huge trains, been all over the world, etc., in the Secret Service. And the reptilians and other aliens, they leave the crop circles, because that's how they identify their places on Earth. Okay, just like cattle are branded. Okay, they brand this planet and others, and they have other planets that they go to, like the Palladians and all that. They have their own planets, and most people don't know that the Palladians built the warships for the Orions. The Queen of Orion, who through my decision asked Revizar and the real guys to put the Queen of Orion in the Phantom Zone years ago, along with millions of her minions, etc., and allowed even Enlil and Inky to take part in this worldwide wake-up. But again, they have free will, and so do others that we've shown them. And more people are stepping up, more aliens, etc. It's just that we all have different body types, but we are all awareness. So it's very important for people to get the real knowledge, and this is what I'm providing as Duane, the great writer, and Kevin and others that have the courage to step up and realistically bring things around, not just remedies, but simply bring things around to where they have a real benefit for the real awareness of the individual, so they can penetrate all that misinformation and layers of, this and that are not necessary, that people look through with their own prism, their own kaleidoscopes, and to eventually get to their real awareness, which is all here and now. You don't have to travel anywhere. All the multi-dimensions are here and now. And so it's not a matter of going from here to there. You will experience that, but it's an isness to be recognized. And then you supersede everything in creation you see for what it is. And you have a real free position with awesome beings that you cannot even imagine, more so than the angels and the gods and all these cute little stories that have been told for eons to keep people unaware, dumbed down, controlled, indoctrinated, and to where they are subservient, as you're seeing today. So again, this is a huge wake up for everybody. It's all been planned. All the agencies, they're not going to be your friend. They keep promoting all this to keep you dumbed down. And so, people can petition and whatever, but it's about waking up and standing real. And there are many parts to this, just like a person's car, and every part is essential. But overall, it is your real awareness. And so I really am very grateful for Kevin Smith to have the courage to step up and promote all that he does, because his experiences are terrific. And we welcome others onto the Skype to share theirs, to bravely step up. I want to share one more experience that Val told me about while he was down in La Mission one day. This was months ago. A lady he had met had this real side experience, and she came to Val and she talked to him when he had his little sign there that said, "Tell me your dream." So she came up and basically told him this experience, to where she was driving her car, and all of a sudden she sees off to the left, whatever, this like part of the earth or whatever, like this giant spaceship that was just huge, that was probably as big as a city or whatever, just start lifting from the earth. And so I'll keep this simple. And then from out of that somewhere came this really dark character. So this dark character, like you'd see in the movies, more so than the Joker or any of these, or Freddy or whatever, this dark character comes out and starts jumping on the cars in front of her a ways up while she's driving and the other people are driving, and he starts smashing their windshields and running them off the road so they crash or whatever. And he keeps doing it until he gets to her car, jumps on her car, starts to smash her windshield, and the experience ends. Okay, so Val tells me this experience, and also the lady told him that she used to work for Apple, which is in Cupertino, which is actually the spaceship up there, which is the AI. And most people don't know that. I think it's seen as a university or something, but underground, it goes miles underground. That's very, very hidden. Well, because this lady had worked there before, and the boys gave her this experience because they knew that she would be talking to Val, and Val would talk to me, and she would have an opportunity to step up, bravely step up and share this with the world. Because what she was being shown is that, the facade of Apple and Apple computers and all this looks really good, doesn't it? It's all reptilian, alien technology. All technology is from the aliens. Again, the Indians didn't have technology because they didn't really deal with the aliens in that respect. They knew about them, but they didn't want to deal with their technology and etc. This was the bankers who were willing to be channels and be abused and taken over by the aliens to become shapeshifters also. And so you have this in the movie industry, politics, etc. So her dream, her real side experience was showing that this is the real Apple. This is what you're not seeing. And so she was shown on the real side behind the scenes and tried to tell her that a little bit, but she just walked away. She wasn't interested. And seeing many people like this, again, it takes courage to face this and step up. And if a person wants to realistically and truly get through creation, well, they're going to have to step up. They're going to have to be brave. They're going to have to earn their way out of here. And they can go to some little spiritual path and have some little master, like we went through the Eckankar stuff and all that, and Val went through Scientology and all that. It's real cute, but their consciousness is pizza dough, even though within their own individual consciousness bubble, they think that they're spiritual or whatever. Well, that's basically tap line, physical, astral, etc. And anyone can see that on the real side. And all these masters and gurus and what they're doing. And Harry and Joni, they're reptilian. Joni took over Harry and Darwin, etc. in the old days. I knew that. I was there. I saw all this. I was to be there and give aid to others, and also see what was going on and what not to do when my position came up in 2001 with the Real Guides and creating the new wave is, etc., and the new presentation. And so this becomes a whole adventure in itself, more than Indiana Jones and James Bond. So those people that step up and more than just chatter and jabber, but actually do something, back up their words and do something, and provide and share, because the world is being purposely destroyed. That's real. There's no given, there's no this or that or whatever. It doesn't matter how nice your house is, what a good job you got, etc. It's all going, because they're just going to eliminate it. They can eliminate it all at once, just like in Star Wars, where they had the Death Star, the Death Ray, and they blew up the planet. Well, they can do that. But in the meantime, they don't really want to do that yet. You know, it's like torturing a person. They want to play with it, like a cat does with a mouse. They want to play with people. They want to see them tortured. And overall, they're constantly training. All this is a big training, more so than Demi Moore and G.I. Jane, and that is they want to see who's willing to become evil. This is real. And so they've used the money, they've used all these things. Bill Gates is a good example. He started off with his approach and cleverness to create Microsoft, etc., pulled many things together. Whatever, Steve Jobs, whatever, they all did the same thing. They're businessmen. Eventually, the elites, I saw this years ago when it was taking place, it was shown to me. I saw this, how he was approached by the shapeshifters, etc. And he was basically blackmailed in a way to simply, you can come with us, or we just cut off your bank accounts, etc. And this is what they do to many, many people. They threaten them or the families or whatever. Well, he decided to become more evil. And so he's part of the Dr. COVID thing to promote people dying. And if you really research him and his so-called vaccines over the years and all this cyberspace nightmare stuff that he creates with miniature mosquitoes and bugs to infect people, and just everything that you can imagine, etc. And all the deaths, and especially in Africa and places like that, very, very real. This is all planned stuff, because again, they have an agenda. This is like their big program too. Also, they have many, many ways to handle this, and they want to see who will step up and become the most evil. It's like a cockfight also. And just like World War II, they brought everybody in. It's a cockfight. Just like Pearl Harbor, that was all set up to be destroyed on purpose. And the United States government, or really what it is the United States Corporation in D.C., because they have nothing to do with the United States of America. They just say they do and promote their strong arm on people, etc. They set all that up to get everybody in the war, and that was all promoted by the monarchy and the Vatican. And so they hired Adolf Hitler to steal precious things and whatever. That's where the Queen gets all her gold, and that's where they get all these paintings and things like that. They hire mercenaries. They hire them to create wars, etc. And this is very, very well known. But most of the public doesn't want to face this. But everybody's on a human farming planet, so the only way that they're going to survive is to have the real knowledge of the real guides and the real universes, and to be able to surpass this creation bubble. But at the same time, we've got to deal with it while we're here, which we're doing, Kevin. And so that's a lot. We'll go over more, so go ahead.
You spoke about the subconscious. A lot of people who do start waking up to the control system, and obviously it's very blatant at the moment, so people are waking up in their droves. They do feel the solution to it is to protest, fight, and battle with the system. And as you have often pointed out, that won't work, because agreement then is to the idea of what is being engaged with, which will then perpetuate it, and also bringing the subconscious into the equation, as most won't realise that the subconscious is ingrained with agreements to the controllers over lifetimes. Perhaps could you elaborate more on that for the purposes of the video?
Yes, and we'll end this one with this when I'm done here, because we're at almost an hour, and we don't want it to go too long each episode. But yes, what people don't realize, because again they've been misinformed, is that yes, you can protest, you can say, hey, I don't like that, or get your friends together and say, okay, let's do this, and let's create some signs and go up and down the street. But when it gets to the point where all of a sudden the police show up or whatever, see, even in the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, which was written by the Anunnaki, it wasn't written by these so-called, these are stories like Benjamin Franklin and all them. Yeah, they did write it, but it wasn't according to what people think, etc. But it is a reference, okay? So we need references. And so, with this protesting that goes on, what I was going to say is in the Constitution, it says that people have a right to readdress or address the government for grievances. Well, that was purposely put in there because, see, they set up all of these scenarios, just like Trump before he left office. He set all that up, and even while he was in office, etc., and all the riots, he helped set up a lot of that stuff. He hired people, even as an example, when he went out to do talks, he hired people to be in the audience, and Hillary and all of them do this, all of them, Obama, shapeshifters. And so they look forward to people. See, they instigate it. They pick the fight like a bully. Like a bully in school. What does he do? He's looking for that individual to do something. Just like in the movie Back to the Future, where, the bad guy came up to, McFly, Biff, came up to McFly when always bug him, because again, he's a bored individual. So he's going to sit there and bug him because he's not very creative himself, and he's getting McFly to, wax his car and do all these things. He's bothering him. And so again, this is all a setup. Everything that's going on. And, just like the pandemic and the masks, Val and I were watching last night or the other night an interview with the mayor of San Francisco. And here she's being confronted by things because she's with her elite group of friends and whatever. And hey, they're telling everybody else to wear a mask, but guess what? They're not wearing masks and whatever. And so she's asked about this and what have you, and it's very interesting. But she don't answer the question directly. She just starts talking about, oh, the band was there and they had been there for 20 years, and oh, wasn't the drummer really good? It's a ridiculous interview. And it's so blatant. All this stuff is right in front of people. And so again, yes, people are prompted to get emotional, to react, because that's called loosh with the reptilians, and they stick in more tap lines in your astral body. And for the most part, you can't see it because it's on your back, but you can learn to see it once you start singing the NUUU and ask for the real guidance and be very, very sincere to follow through with this and learn about this and step up and help with what's going on with this planet Earth. And the real guides will back you, and they will take care of those tap lines eventually. And if you still need lessons, well, you still got them in you, just like a soldier has 100 pounds on his back and he's got to travel. Well, each one of us has to carry our own burden until we get to the point where we don't have to. So yes, this protesting and what's going on with the subconscious. See, the elites, there's many people thinking that, oh, we know their information. We know what they're doing. Well, they don't care. They already know that you know, all right? They don't see things the same way people do, the rational, indoctrinated, one-dimensional surface world reasoning that people utilize to try and figure out why is the government doing this, why are the elites doing this, etc. They don't use that same view because they don't care. They control the board, and so they can do whatever they want, and they will flaunt themselves. Just like this mayor and others, they don't care. It's like, okay, have an attitude, whatever. Go ahead, protest, whatever. Then we can that justifies us to create, the government is saying that justifies us to create more agencies, get more military, hire more people that are agreeable to our agenda to control everyone. You see how it works? It's all right in front of people. You need to wake up and really, really see it. And yes, once you get the information, once you've got that, that's a start. And just like I mentioned Sheriff Mack before, it's a reference, but it's a very small reference, and we'll utilize that just like you need tires on your car. You got the car, but you need tires too for it to work. So you need all these different parts because we have bodies here that we have to deal with. But that subconscious part, that's the fifth body. So when David Icke is out there talking about what he knows and all this great knowledge, well, that's really cool. And like you've experienced on the real side, David Icke puts his fingers in his ears because he doesn't want to hear, it's not about truth, but what's real. He just wants his platform, which is fine. He's delivering it. But at the same time, while he's delivering this knowledge to people, he's actually subconsciously opening them up to more tap lines because they do not have a resolve. In other words, they don't know how to deal with the information once they have it. Because once they have it, the reptilians know that they have this information and they're going to tap line them even more. That's just how it works. So there's no defense there. And so again, running around screaming and trying to protest and throwing rocks or windows and whatever, that only prompts the controllers to contain you and justifies containing you because you've just committed yourself to what they want you to do in the first place. You see, it's all a setup until you recognize that real awareness. So let's conclude here, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin and Val. Until next time.